All right, so Jack, what do you think is the biggest AI opportunity in 2025?
I actually had this conversation with somebody recently, and
Okay.
I'll tell you what I think it isn't. It isn't things like prompt engineering, because we've got to look at the development of these AI technologies. And I'm seeing a lot of people building things that actually the big companies, OpenAI, Claude, are just going to develop anyway. A lot of it sits in the application layer. In other words, using AI technologies to deliver value to businesses. We have a significant demand on the one hand that's not been met by the supply side. More people are getting into AI automations, but I don't think there's benefits been realized yet. So I think it's about making AI simple and connecting that to actual business numbers. And if you can do that, I think you'll absolutely crush it.
Real quick, I'm looking to hire a backend developer to help me build Vectel. So if you have the experience or if you know someone, the link is going to be below the video. You mentioned AI automations, right? That's what you're known for. And I agree, that's probably one of the biggest opportunities because every business has some process, some inefficiency that could be improved. Can you give us like a simple explanation for those beginners watching? What is an AI automation and like what can it do?
The way I always think about it is you're connecting on the one hand AI, ChatGPT, Claude, all these cool models, with no-code automations, tools like N8 and Make and Zapier. And the idea is we combine these two fast-growing markets and technologies to do something epic. So an example of that is automating the onboarding process, lead qualification for businesses, chatbots, voice agents, building fully fledged mini SaaS solutions for prototypes. Essentially, any business problem you've got, just leveraging AI and no code. So if businesses aren't using it, they're leaving a lot of value on the table, dude, 100%.
Yeah, and it's also like a nice way to step it up. Using ChatGPT, anybody can do that, right? So I think like the next step, going into make.com, N8, and building some automation, that's like a nice next step.
It is, and it's like, the thing is, like, you can achieve like the results without no code. It's just that no code's made it way more accessible and a lot cheaper. Like my last tech startup, for example, like when we built it, we needed a developer. Like if I were to rebuild that today, I wouldn't need to do that anymore because no code's at the level, AI is at the level where we could just like cut all the way through that. So it just means access to technologies becomes so much greater for these businesses, man.
Yeah, so many more people are in a position to be able to start a business or build software. It's kind of like an amazing opportunity that I still think not enough people realize. Like it's never been easier to start a business now.
No, it hasn't. No, definitely not. I think that's basically the TLDR of it is just democratized opportunities. If you have a laptop connection and enough coffee, you can get started straight away and either sell to a business or start making an impact and adding value yourself. Like I think it's really freaking epic. I mean, dude, how about you? What do you think the biggest opportunity is for 2025?
By the way, I think I'm the only person in the world who documented step by step how I built my AI startup from zero to $13,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. And all of that is available in the New Society, inside of this module, how to build an AI startup. You can literally see how I chose the idea, how I created the project in Cursor, everything through fixing errors, the mistakes I made, deploying it, adding payments, getting the first paid customer. All of that and more is documented in the New Society. So if you want to jump on this massive opportunity of building an AI startup, make sure to join the New Society. The link is going to be below the video. I mean, I would say two types of categories. For complete beginners, I would say it's AI automations. It's so easy to get into, it's ridiculous. But I would say for people who have a bit of tech background or, higher ambition, I would say it's just building specific software. It doesn't have to be an AI startup, but like you can build with these new models and new AI tools, you can build software so fast.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So let's say there's a big company and they, struggle with like HR or something. If you can come in and, save them like hiring 10 people, you can charge like 50K, 100K for that, And that's not an AI startup, but it is just a B2B software. So either building automations for the beginners or like more advanced software, these are, I think, the two biggest opportunities.
I think that's good. It's also, we ask what's the biggest, but it's also like, there may be one that's bigger than the other, but in reality, there are probably several freaking things.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be great to still succeed in this sector. That's the crazy thing about it. You can kind of fail upwards a little bit.
Yeah, the biggest mistake is not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
Like as long as you're in the AI field, you're good. Like the field is growing, everything, maybe there's going to be like startups that get replaced by OpenAI, whatever, you can pivot, right? But like not being in AI is the biggest mistake, and then not doing something, not trying something, that's, I would say, like, as long as people are trying, they're going to succeed.
I agree with that 100%. Well, actually, on that AI SaaS point, what is interesting is, when do we reach the point where AI's kind of solved the SaaS problem? You know this, dude, because you've got a really sick SaaS company, right? What's your thoughts on that versus AI's ability soon to actually just create full SaaS at scales once it reaches that level of technology?
It's going to be possible, but then you have the people who are ambitious and take the initiative, right? So I don't believe the fact that like your biggest, I've heard this on Twitter, I disagree with this completely. Your biggest threat is your customers rebuilding your SaaS in 1 hour.
No.
Like the issue is that the people want it easy, right? The reason why SaaS are successful is because it solves a problem in an easy way. You pay a monthly subscription, you solve a specific problem. So even though there's going to be models like, O5 in the future that are going to be able to build full SaaS and deploy them, whatever, still there's going to be people who get those ideas, who distribute those, right? So the killers are going to be even more killers, and the people who are behind are not in AI, they're going to be even more behind.
Yeah, that's actually true, because technology is actually not the bottleneck. Like, businesses don't fail for lack of ideas. They do it because they're just crap at executing, right? And it's like, I love this idea. You could even put the dream, ultimate, successful business plan on someone's desk. They still won't do it anyway.
Exactly.
So you give them the technology, they won't necessarily be able to execute on it. So yeah, I think that's a good point. There's a lot that goes around the SaaS too. So
yeah, there was a really good point, I think, by Naval, is that entrepreneurs are not scared of AI. If you look at all the like categories, like, artists, employees, who's going to be replaced by AI, there's zero entrepreneurs that are like scared of it. They're just like excited. Okay, boom, I can execute this faster. I can, speed up my employees, boom, boom, boom. And yeah, so it's the people that are problem solvers, that are ambitious, that have good work ethic, that are the ones who are not scared by it. They just see more possibilities.
Yeah, they see AI, they think possibilities and opportunities.
Yeah.
They don't think, crap, I'm going to lose my job. Yeah.
And also like the rate of advancement is speeding up. Like just yesterday, OpenAI, okay, actually 2 days ago they released GPT 4.1, and then yesterday they released O3 and O4 mini. And that's like just 3 months after releasing, or 2 months after releasing O1. So it's like the rate of progress is actually speeding up. And yeah, it's getting crazy. Like even I'm struggling to catch up, and it's literally my job. So.
But it is weird though, isn't it? You cannot, like, it's like every day of my WhatsApp, there's a brand new model that's dropped that does something completely different.
Yeah.
Have you been following the whole benchmark things? How like they're developing these models now that are optimizing it actually not for performance, but to look and perform well on the benchmarks.
Yeah, there's some of that for sure.
Yeah.
But the models are also getting better.
They're also getting better, yeah.
There's some benchmarks you cannot really cheat, like chatbot, I guess chatbot arena, there's probably some ways to cheat it. There is like benchmarks that are blind, like people choosing which is best model.
That's the best one in my view, like the blind test, which gave you the better answer. Yeah.
But then after the model is released, in the first like few days, people develop the vibe test. They like, you see the demos on Twitter, right? You see what people are thinking about it, and you cannot cheat that. Like if you try the model inside of Cursor and it sucks completely and it's changing wrong files, people are gonna spot that. So I don't think like there's any issue with this. Obviously, it's bad if companies purposely like fake that and optimize for a certain benchmark, but the models are getting better. And also the context windows are becoming massive. Like 4.1 has 1 million tokens. Llama 4, the Scout one, has 10 million.
That's insane, dude. That is ridiculous. I mean, well, let me ask you this question, dude. Like, because you do a lot of like coding. Like, what model are you using primarily, like today on April 17th for your coding? Like,
yeah, we need to timestamp this because it changes all the time.
Ask me an hour, get a different answer. Yeah.
So okay, this is a good question actually. So, like the tried and tested Claude 3.7 Sonnet Thinking Max inside of Cursor, they put like solid restrictions on it because without the max, this is the max reasoning effort, right? So that it thinks for the maximum of time. Without that and without some, prompting they did on the back end, the model was crazy. Like it was changing files left and right. It was just out of control. You told it like remove one comment and it updated 5 files. It was just like not good at instruction following. But right now, the way Cursor contained it, it's really good. But currently, the best model I would say is Gemini 2.5 Pro. This is a model from Google that is really amazing at coding. It's a reasoning model. So it's really like the best at programming, at complex programming right now. The issue is that sometimes it almost does too much reasoning. Like, for my simple problem, maybe it reasons for 20 seconds. It's not that bad, but I find 3.7 thinking more consistent. But then for complex problems, right now, I'm going to be using O3 because this is the new model that just released yesterday from OpenAI. It's the best reasoning model in the world by far, but it's not as fast. If there's it can think for like 5 minutes if needed. Sometimes it can think for 20 seconds if it's a simple thing. But I still haven't tested it enough. I'm making a video on it today, so we'll see. But yeah, O3 is really powerful and it just released.
I mean, it's actually really difficult. Like oftentimes I'm at the point now where I don't use Google anymore, number one. Secondly, like if it's like a question of importance, I will usually run it through 2 models at least and compare the outputs. And there's a kind of like vibe element that people have. Like it's almost, there's the benchmark, but then you just kind of read it and you have a kind of affinity with the answer. I've been really impressed with the deep research stuff. Yeah. Like, I mean, I was asking it questions about different regulations and things. I almost, in a way, was spoiled because if just one of these epic 7 things that came out we had like a year ago, I think the whole internet would completely collapse. Like even deep research is such a significant tool.
Yeah, and a big part of that is that deep research was the only place to access the big O3 model.
Yeah.
So that was powered by O3. Obviously now you can use O3 by itself. But yeah, deep research is amazing. And also, like if you talk about the vibes, GPT 4.5. It's not good at benchmarks, but personally that is my favorite model. Like anytime I need like any like personal advice or life advice, that model just understands so much. They packed so much knowledge into it, which is why it's slow and expensive. But I don't know, that feels like the most human model right now.
Yeah, it actually did. What's really funny to me is like when I chat with ChatGPT on the app, like the models have different personalities.
Yeah.
So they've got the one with the blue
sure.
circle, and I don't like that guy. Like I don't like his answers and responses. It's like quite frustrating. I'm like, dude, I want details. Give me more details. But the one where you do that like single shot, speak for like minutes, and then he comes back at you with minutes, I find the conversation much better, right? Same with like Sesame, like the personalities are different based on the models. Obviously, Sesame is a completely different thing. But I do think we're probably approaching a point where the quality differential will be indistinguishable for a lot of people. Like the improvements in its output, when you get to the point where we actually can't determine which is better, because it's already reached like what we consider to be the maximum level of performance.
Again, depends what type of people you're talking about. If you're a complete beginner, then yeah, they don't know what to select, right? And then obviously ChatGPT has a huge problem of having like 8 models in the model picker, and they have to like explain like in one sentence why should you use this one or that one. And especially the naming makes it impossible, right? Like you have 4.0 mini, then you have 0.4 mini. Nobody knows what that means, like especially beginners. Then they release like 4.1 comes after 4.5.
It's crazy.
It's so confusing. Like I wish, I'm glad I'm not a beginner because like this is so crazy, right? But I don't know, like for example, in Vector, in my startup, I offer all the models, like so that people can choose, you know, what they like.
That's funny, like, case if you put the lens on like of actually trying to get consumers on it, because I think we are going to get improvements in performance for sure. Like scaling laws shows that, like we can see. We don't know if the rate of improvement is exponential or linear at the moment because we can't zoom out enough to see. But it's, to me, I think the big improvements now, obviously everyone's doing the race for the training. I actually perceive the biggest opportunity is going to be like how we interface with different individuals on that now. What can you do on the UI? What's like the bit that you make it more of a human-like experience? Like Claude's been an excellent proponent of that, and like really blew my mind how everyone just started to shift over to Claude after ChatGPT came out because its responses just felt and presented as more human-like. So I think these companies, I believe the opportunity for them is yes, make the models more powerful. It's actually a lot of the gains now are going to be on the user experience because I only see them becoming increasingly commoditized as the costs go down, the performance goes up. How do you differentiate? It's got to be either bundling it with other technologies. In other words, hey, you use us because, by the way, we do incredible images. Oh, and by the way, oh, and by the way, oh, and by the way, in one terminal. Or it's got to be some degree of customizability. Like one of the creative things that blew my mind, if you look at like usages of AI websites, one of the biggest ones is like the avatars, the chatting with personalities, which I thought was really interesting because people like chatting with, I don't know, Arnie instead of like an AI bot. So
especially girls.
Especially
like,
girls, yeah.
Character.ai is like mostly women. They get so addicted to it, and it's like role play, you know, fantasy, whatever. So this is a very interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But that's basically prompt engineering, you know? Like you have the same model, but you give it a personality with the prompt. So maybe that is the answer to your question, because like you have all kinds of different groups of people, and if you want to build like a lawyer chatbot, right? It's not that you need a different model than OpenAI, you just need to prompt it in a different way. So also UI, you can change the UI to be for lawyers, right? Looks different than UI for programmers in Cursor. So that's, I think, the way to do it on the application layer. You adapt the UI and UX plus the prompting.
Yeah, I would say that's right. I mean, then you get licensing for different voices, different personalities. And then also, a buddy of mine has this idea of he really wants to bring in visual avatars to his chat window. So you're not just speaking to his screen, but if you can actually have avatars you communicate with. And that's obviously on a collision course for robotics when that lands in the house. So all these different technologies are trailblazing, and individually they will collide at one point and will all converge in some pretty epic stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people are actually not seeing what's going to happen, you know? Like,
no, I mean, it's tough to say, isn't it? Yeah, it's very tough to say.
You think there's any way around this, like growing inequality, or it's inevitable?
Do you mean growing inequality in what sense?
Like the smart get smarter, you know? Like the people who are using AI will get either further ahead, and then like the people who are ignoring it will get further behind. Real quick, if you're someone who likes to be super productive, make sure to check out Vector.ai. This is my AI startup, and it includes a lot of advanced AI agents that literally do your work for you. Let me show you. This is the infinite thinking agent, which is currently the most popular one, and you can literally start it and enable YOLO mode, and it will autonomously, by itself, work on the tasks you have on your list, using advanced reasoning models, web search, and a bunch of other tools. So if you want to have access to all of that and all the other AI agent features we have inside of Vectel, for free, you can start on the free plan, go to vectel.ai and sign up. It takes 30 seconds, super easy, and it will save you countless hours in the months to come.
Yeah, it's like knowledge inequality, isn't it? Because I think there's fairly standard good access to AI where if you've got an internet connection now, you can pretty much access the best models. It's more about what you know. And we've had, I would say, probably 18 months of runway to learn these technologies, these like, even if you're doing automations, if you want to like drive like big value for businesses or whatever. But it's almost like, yes, the rate of change is there, is present, is growing. And I think that gap between a sort of day one beginner and someone that's been doing it for a couple of years is getting bigger. Yeah, so I think there's going to be knowledge inequality. And it's like that classic, AI is not going to take your job. It's people using AI that's going to do that.
But even like, I agree, everybody has access to ChatGPT for free, right?
Yeah.
There's still a huge difference between the person who's using ChatGPT for free maybe once a month and person that, you know, is using it daily, paying for the paid plan, which like unlocks much better models. And it's like knowing what to ask. So many people just use it as Google, and it's so sad to see because like it can do so much more, right? Like you said, you can talk to it, you can describe a decision that you're struggling with. For 5 minutes, talk to it, give it all the context, and it will give you like, here's what you're not seeing. Here's 5 different ways to solve it. This is like priceless, right? You get consulting with people that are like, have all the knowledge. Someone who has all the knowledge of the world. It's really amazing. But then again, like there's people like me and you who have like AI automations, AI agents. The average person cannot even comprehend like what's possible. And again, there's many people above us who are like doing much more, right?
Well, it's funny. Is like, I told this story a lot. Like I was at a dentist recently, and she said, "Hey Jack, have you ever heard of ChatGPT?" I said, "I've never heard of it. What is
crazy.
it?" And she was like, "I can't believe it. It did this crazy stuff." And like, she's degree educated. She's like around early 30s, and she was just understanding it. Like even my sister, she's like a professional HR person in some company or something, and you know she does well, but dude, she doesn't even use it. She just said AI is this cool thing. I'm like, how are you not? Obviously, when I spoke to her, like I was like, how are you actually? I could actually physically believe it. We get, I think, because we're in this like bubble of everyone's really passionate about it.
Yeah.
It's easy to think that's majority. It really isn't. Like most people don't even know what the hell's going on. And then I think to your point, you've got that like surface level of people that kind of might flirt with ChatGPT, ask it a question, they're not scratching the surface on its potential.
It's so funny how many people there is like they know about ChatGPT and they think just by that they're like tech savvy, you know?
Well, it's like, okay, here's a question for you. How much do you think the use of AI has increased your effective output in terms of like IQ? Not necessarily in terms of like making you more intelligent, but like your decision-making quality. Like what percentage increase do you think that's actually driven for you?
I mean, there's like decisions which I would not consult with AI because there's some things you have to like develop a feel for this, right? There's some things you should decide yourself. Like for example, what's the next feature I should add in Vectel? I would never ask AI that. Like I should know that, right? From the users, from using it myself, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think the biggest gain is on decision making. I think the biggest gain is like raw productivity. I mean, just building my SaaS, you know, building my startup took me 2 months to launch it. Would have taken me at least half a year, probably a year without that. Yeah. So that is the huge gain, right? I can speak in plain English and it can write like Next.js code. I know nothing about Next.js, but it can do it. So that's the biggest gain, like filling in the gaps where I have no expertise. But as long as I keep asking and, you know, I keep learning and I don't give up after first error, it's all good.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think there's a big, like it just automates all the cool stuff, which is epic. For me, I do think if you can ask it the right questions, I really rate its like influence on identifying blind spots and bolstering your like decisions on things. Like really weirdly, it's a wild example. Like if you said, hey, I don't know, I want to understand about tax in Dubai. Here are 5 questions I've got. Like genuinely, like a year ago, you'd be paying an expert thousands of dollars an hour for that. And you're just getting it back for that. I mean, I think it's, I mean, like you can pretty much use it in almost, and I've got a buddy who uses it for like absolutely every possible decision he ever makes. Guess who?
I mean, the issue with that is like, it's predicting the next token, right? And it's the training data is the web. So like you're almost making the decision as the average person on the internet. Like if you think about it, right? Now, obviously you can improve that with prompting and, you know, using the best possible model, stuff like that. But I think the way you do it is much better. Like if you consult with it and then make the decision yourself, right? like as an entrepreneur, that's what you get paid for. At a certain level, when you have employees, stuff like that, you get paid for your judgment, your taste, your decision making. So I don't think it's a good idea to outsource decision making to AI. Like when I do it is when I have zero expertise, right? Like if there's like a contract I need to review for a video, and I just want to know like if this is good or if there's something unusual, then I review it obviously with Claude and ChatGPT. And if they say like, oh, this is a standard contract, it looks like this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, good. I don't have to pay for a lawyer. I know that this is probably good.
I think it's non-sycophantic AI in the sense of it just agrees with everything we say. It's about counsel. I see it as an advisor that throws, ideas and constructs and different ways of thinking about it. And then you kind of grab what is relevant and do it. Actually, do you know one of the biggest things I've seen now, and you might see this, with your community YouTube channel, is it's not even people can easily drown in the sea of perceived opportunities with this technology, like how it can apply. And I think there's a bigger focus now with AI about, okay, I could do like a million things, right? Actually, the question becomes, what is the stuff I should be focusing on? And then actually doing the focusing bit. People are struggling, I'm finding, to really know which is the thing I should lock down on. Like, because you're not getting you want to maximize your return per unit of your intellectual capital. And I was at a community meetup yesterday, some people in Dubai. And one guy said, dude, it's so easy just to watch YouTube videos. And like, because if you can easily drown in a swarm of updates, right, man? I mean, you've probably seen it as well. Like, and you never end up actually doing the thing you need to do because you're just always like getting updated by like the new shiny objects.
I mean, this has been always an issue. Obviously, AI makes it a bigger issue because, you can build a quick MVP in 1 hour, right? Like you get an idea for a software that you and your team would need. But I think this is like, again, one of the skills of being an entrepreneur, the ability to focus, right? So I don't know. I think this will just weed out the people who get distracted easily.
Yeah, it's easy to get distracted. Well, I did some psychographical analysis. I don't know if I've shared this with you not on people in AI space. And one of my biggest fears is the fear of getting left behind.
Yeah.
That is what drives a lot of the intellectual capital to new shiny, you won't believe what just happened with this new thing videos.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, because they don't want to miss the next big unlock.
I think it's evolutionary.
Yeah.
Like think about it. If there's a tribe and the tribe is moving somewhere, you don't want to be left behind.
You don't.
That's like the worst thing that can happen because, 20,000 years ago, you would die. So, but here is the same thing. Like, obviously you will not die if you miss AI, but like your career might get replaced, right? Or like your business might get outcompeted. So there is serious consequences to ignoring AI, but there's also serious consequences to being distracted. Like if every week you're doing something else, you're not going to be good at anything.
That's true. I reckon it's better to be 100% focused on a level 6 opportunity than 20% focused on a level 10 opportunity. Yeah. You just commit to a decision and just go all in with it. Yeah.
I mean, when I hear this, like, I've met people like that. It's like, okay, well, I'm building this, I'm building that. I have a guy helping me there. It's like, okay, but there's someone who's like laser focused on one thing, he's going to win.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have to struggle with this myself because there's so many opportunities to do. But like, for me, I'm just like YouTube and Vectel. Those are my main two things.
Those are the two things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like YouTube goes deep, man. Like the rabbit hole. Every time I think I'm approaching the bottom, I realize how little I actually know, which is near nothing. And you're like constantly learning on these things. You can go very deep on YouTube. Yeah, massively.
Same for me recently because I had a bunch of videos like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So I had to like reset, get rid of the ego, humble myself. It's like, okay, let's jump on a 2-day upload schedule. So that's what I'm doing right now. Before I was doing every 4 days. And like, let's look at what my most successful videos are. Let's look at the difference between the flops, experiment with new formats. I was like probably too comfortable with the build anything format, which worked for me really well. But then I didn't experiment enough with new ones. So there's always like, lessons you need to relearn. And YouTube always teaches you like, nobody has got it figured out, right? Like even Mr. Beast experiments with new formats.
Yeah, it has a beautiful way of humbling you, like YouTube does. And you're right. And it's also, YouTube is an unsolvable question because the nucleus, it's constant moving target. Like, I remember when I started doing videos on ChatGPT when it came out, you could just say ChatGPT candle, whatever it was, it would have gotten like 10,000 views. And then it was like all of a sudden, bam, like it wasn't getting views anymore. So it's like YouTube, and I think generally speaking, you have to continue to make this pivots 24/7 with it.
Same with DeepSeek. Like when DeepSeek was blowing up, you could just put DeepSeek in your title and it was like 100K views.
Yeah, isn't that wild? That is actually wild.
I think it's supply and demand,
Yeah.
Because like when there's a lot of demand for something and low amount of supply, low amount of videos, then each video on that topic goes viral. So this is like, I think one of the biggest things in AI space. When everybody like is covering the news and doing the same thing, then there's a lot of competition.
So do you think the opportunities in like identifying those topics early before they've got like the
or going niche, like doing something that somebody else cannot do, right?
Yeah,
like you can build very advanced automations that most people cannot do, so that is your unique advantage.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is, you have to think about what you can say and speak on that other people cannot do that. Actually, as well, the really weird thing about YouTube is the metrics are set up in such a way that it incentivizes you to get more views and engagements. And that's like the psychological tumble dry you go through of like pursuing this like 1 out of 10 status. In reality, I've seen it because I track now clicks on videos. And actually, weirdly enough, like videos that do perform inverted commas by traditional standards poorly, actually drive way more individuals to the community. Again, they find it valuable. So it's like, actually, like, you cannot worship the view god. Like, and it's like, views in service of what? Like, who's actually watched this? One of the funniest pieces of advice I got is if you treat your audience like monkeys, your channel becomes a zoo. And you kind of attract a certain type of individual. But it's also, you're right. I think if you're starting off on YouTube, I think the hack is to go really freaking niche. Really, really, really freaking niche.
I agree with what you just said because like I try to avoid terms like free, right? Like how to do this for free. Like,
but that is going viral now. Like if you include free in, I noticed that because I was looking at outliers and it was like if you just put the word free in the title.
Yeah, but then again, you're attracting like low quality people, right? So like if you have a product that you're selling, even if it's $30, if someone is like clicking on video just because it says free, they're probably not gonna buy it.
That's true.
But I like the beauty of YouTube. It's just like as long as you keep going, that's all that matters,
That is all that matters, yeah. It's also, it's like, you'll find this funny because like you had a few videos that did like insane, like the dopamine hit, like I'm sure you've had like, how many of you had over 1 million views now?
I mean, to be honest, I don't like, multiple, but I don't get the dopamine hit from that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like I've done it YouTube for like 5 years. Literally like 5 years ago, I've created my first channel, which was always a gaming channel.
Yeah.
But the real hit is the first time you blow up. Like first 2 years when I was doing YouTube, I was getting like between 100 and 1,000 views, right? Like nothing. And then I went from making like $200 a month to 20K a month in 1 month. That is when I was like crazy dopamine, right? But now, like if I get a 1 out of 10, it's cool, right? But it's not that same hit anymore.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I remember the first time I had a video get kind of semi-viral. It was crazy. It was nuts. But you're right. It's like, but then YouTube, you learn to go through the cycles of you have to constantly keep improving and pivoting the content to be as valuable as humanly possible.
I think it's like a smaller explanation of business. Like this is, applies for any business. If you get too comfortable in your product doesn't evolve, you're not hiring new people, sooner or later someone is going to come in. If you have nice profit margins, they're going to destroy them, right? I think YouTube is just a faster like way of that. You see it faster because if you get comfortable on a format for a few months, boom, your views suddenly start dropping. Like, there was this thumbnail format that worked for me really well. And then like 10 other channels started replicating it and now it doesn't work anymore. So now it's actually funny because now one of our best performing thumbnail formats is one with my face that nobody else is using. So, it's funny how that works.
Isn't that really funny how that works? Yeah, that is actually crazy. Yeah, dude, it's funny. I was talking to a buddy of mine about this, about, I'd say theft, like, don't necessarily great art to steal, but that was one of the things I learned over the past like year, like building this like AI automation business is that when you start doing well, people will steal, like freaking immediately. Yeah, but I didn't expect the extent to which that it would just be so unbelievable. Like I was saying, like I've had like
I've seen your thumbnails ripped like exactly screenshots,
dude. And then like I even had it with my school community. Like there's a community that like literally did. I'm on about character by character, the whole bio, even my classroom, like the days that the events were on and what the events were called, completely. I think mine said, if I don't 100 extra investment, I'm not doing my job properly. They changed it to 10x. And I was like, dude, there's no way.
There's one guy who literally created a community that's a hybrid of mine and yours.
I really?
Even the name is like AI Society Automations with, it's like literally a blend. Like if you pasted both our communities into ChatGPT and say, create a hybrid of this, it will be his community.
That's really funny. Initially I was like, this is crazy. And then like, kind of where I got to, I don't know if you've thought about that, is like, I just realized it's a big compliment, but it's also like, you better just put in your insight cap towards being better and improving. And that's where I got to with it. But like, I was like shocked. I was like, because for me, it's like, well, people will just know, right? Like they'll just see that you've just copied it. It doesn't make any sense why you would do that. But dude, it blew my mind.
But this is why we have to keep experimenting. Because like, if we find a good CTA that works, other people start using it and then it no longer works that well. So that's why you have to keep testing CTAs, keep improving the about page. Like it's constant, like business is constant war.
Yeah, it's constant pivoting. It's like you always have to make those 1 degree, 3 degree, 5 degree pivots constantly. Yeah.
Yeah, and when stuff isn't working, you have to go 50 degree.
And actually, one of the things I've been playing around with my head is it's easy to look at what's happening in the space. I actually am of the view now, I think that can hamper your creativity. You kind of want to have your own pulse, your own bet on what you want to go to back your originality and what you want to focus on. Because if all the creator does is see what else is working and does a version of it, then I think you're just limited to whatever the meta is. You're never going to break through and define a niche. And you did an amazing job of that, man, when you started creating content in AI and you went over to school. You trailblazed that and led the way. So
now every AI creator has a school community.
Now every AI creator has a school community. Yeah. So you need to understand what the people want, but it's almost like I bring it back. The more I look at this, the more I realize it's actually. I wonder if it's actually really simple, which is if you just focus on actually sit down and use your brain and think about what people want and just give them that, like the rest of it's just window dressing. It's like Bezos always says, right? The most fearsome competitors are the ones that don't even think about you at all they think about is a customer. Because they're in pursuit of the customer, you're just going where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And the other creators are the puck. You kind of want to go for where it's going.
Like this is exactly why startups where the founder is non-technical will fail, because like if the founder himself cannot understand like the product and cannot test it, you just cannot outsource it to an agency completely, right? So this is the same exact thing, and it applies to any business. Like you have to be using the product yourself. You cannot build a great gym if you don't work out.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Impossible. Yeah, completely impossible.
By the way, one thing you said is that usually the models like blindly agree. But recently, I think there's 2 models that broken this curse, because LLMs are basically built to agree, right? Like next token prediction, unless you say something ridiculous, obviously. But like right now, Gemini 2.5 Pro and GPT 4.5 are the only 2 models, from my experience, that will tell you like, no, that's wrong. If you tell it like, change this file to implement that, not only like most models, like maybe Claude 3.5 would change that file and then mess up your code base. But these 2 models say like, no, actually that files look good. Maybe you want to make changes here.
Oh, that's good.
So it's getting better that models no longer blindly agree.
Yeah, that's kind of what you want them to do. You want them to be an intelligent objector if they don't agree. Yeah, 100%. That's fantastic.
That's the main difference between LLMs and humans right now. Because like, if you say to an LLM like, yeah, I've been feeling kind of lazy, I've been skipping the gym, and say like, oh yeah, maybe it's because you're depressed, blah, blah, blah. Your friend will be like, oh, the fuck? Get up, Jack.
I want an LLM to, dude, you're dropping the ball, you're being lazy, you need to get back after it, you need to crush it, dude. That's what I want to hear. I actually always say to language models, I said, dude, tell me if you disagree with me, by the way. I actually always give it that prompt. I don't want to have to do that. I want it to be freaking roasting me. It'd be cool if you could actually preset that. I know you can do with custom instructions.
Yeah, but it's more fine-tuning. Yeah, it needs more fine-tuning.
It needs more fine-tuning. Yeah, definitely. 100%.
But now the good thing about ChatGPT is that they improved the way it can like recall memory. Because before it had the long-term memory, which it had to save into, but now it can reference old chats that are not saved in the long memory. So you can say like, list out all the topics we talked about in the last 30 days. And with the latest update that came out like 3 days ago, it can now do that.
That is freaking awesome. That is a really, really, really good update. Because it was my experience, like I'd have like a chat and I'd go really deep on a subject. And then once it ended, I'm like, I've got to now restart the whole conversation in a brand new chat. So the thing I'm most looking forward to is Sesame with an extremely long memory. That level of, and I'd say the key differentiator is it already solved the IQ problem. It hadn't solved the EQ, the emotional intelligence problem. Sesame does that. That's the next, thing for voice AI. I think that'll be absolutely huge, to be fair.
By the way, just like with the internet and Bitcoin, most people are going to completely miss out on the AI revolution. So don't be one of them and get started today. In the new society, you can find advanced step-by-step tutorials, how to build your first AI agent, how to build your own AI startup, prompt engineering, how to make your first $1,000 with AI, and so much more. So if you want to start making money with AI, then make sure to join the new society. You don't need any programming experience. All you need is 30 minutes a day. And of course, we will help you every step of the way. So if you want to start making money with AI agents, join the new society. The link is below the video. The voice thing, it's like a different model. Even if it's the same model, the fact that it's a different modality just causes people to use it in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you can speak to it, right? It's a very different feeling. Like the first time you use ChatGPT voice, it's kind of surreal.
It is surreal. Yeah, I mean, like even a buddy of mine, he's PhD in AI, but he told me, to be honest with you, dude, he's like, I don't even know what that really means anymore. Like I sent him an assessment. I was like, dude, try this out. Tell me what you think about it. His mind was blown. He's not aware of a lot of the application stuff. And I think that's like, AI now is such a huge term. It could mean like a million different things. Do you know what I mean? You could be in cybersecurity AI. You may have no idea about applications or like what's going on with the SaaS side of things. So, dude, all that to say, like, it is growing exponentially, and the different modalities, like, definitely making it more accessible.
So you would like something like ChatGPT voice, but powered by Sesame with like 10 million context window?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think it's possible to build, to be honest. Like,
well, dude, have you seen Black Mirror, the recent season? No. Okay, so there's this concept, and actually, dude gave me this. They told me about this idea. I think it's awesome. This idea that, you know, when a technology hits a certain threshold, which it is approaching, it's not there yet, there's so many different interesting business types that begin to emerge. One of them is the ability to create a digital codex of a human. Okay, say for example, if someone in your family passes away, and they create a library of content, you know, being able to feed it that data, capturing their voice, which we could do with the recording, you could actually have conversations with that individual far after they've gone. And especially if you service it, I mean, it's funny just to spar around this idea because I think it's really interesting. Like if you have someone who knows they're terminally ill and they want the ability for AI to, I don't know, speak to them after they've gone, you could say, great, you know, because like I know there's these books that kind of do it around sometimes where you give it to somebody and say, hey, like, what was your first memory? What was this like? Actually, AI can replace that. Like if you imagine you gave them like a sphere or something kind of like futuristic and it just asked them questions and it spent time with them, it was in their pocket, it listened to their conversations and it could pick up on all the mannerisms, what they did, what they were thinking about. It would just gather data for weeks. And then once you captured their tone of voice, you could hologrammify the individual and then they could become a hologram that the family could chat to going forward. Not everybody would want that, but some people would definitely want that. And it's like, we're not that far away from that.
I think the biggest issue is actually not getting the context. The biggest issue is the architectural. Like, if I gave you everything I know, it would just be you with my knowledge. Because like if you tell ChatGPT, if you somehow extracted all the knowledge and told it into ChatGPT, it's ChatGPT with your knowledge. You need to change the neural network, right? So it's not enough to just get that info from the dying person. The main thing is almost like monitoring their brainwaves. Because you need to create a neural network that matches their neural network in their brain.
Well, I think if you were going to do, I mean, there's different levels of this that exist, right? Level 1 is just really bad, and level 10 is like indistinguishable. If you wanted to progress up a level hierarchy, you would want to start capturing things like facial expressions, heart rate, like and really get into the psychology of what they're doing and how they're moving. Like we've got like Neuralink now that can like let people play Mario Kart with no use of their hands. Like I think it's just data in, intelligent processing, and data out. Like I think it could probably track things that you don't even realize are possible. Yeah. Like, and I'm not saying that this can be made today, but I think we're not that far away from a technology to the point where you can do really exciting things. Like we can already, I mean, did you see the direwolves that got brought back recently?
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. That's
amazing. Crazy. And dude, do you know what's really interesting about that is the guy that created the company is a non-technical guy. He's a bro with an idea and liked Game of Thrones and said, let's do it. And he inspired and executed his vision with other people. And we're just at the point, and I could be wrong, but I believe he said it may not have been possible without the AI to actually like do a lot of the heavy lifting. But it's this AI now is enabling us to like create such incredible ideas. And I think, you know, I talk a lot about how you can generate, you know, you do as well, like actual value and money with AI. But there's also this really interesting concept of just the wild, crazy ideas that you can now execute. And like, I actually would encourage people, even myself, like, if you have an idea, even if it can't be done yet, create like a level 1 version of it that is just absolute garbage. And then as the technology comes up, you can start to like build that out.
Yeah, I mean, the MVPs like for anything can be created so fast now, it's insane.
Yeah.
But a lot of people get stuck after that, you know, like turning the MVP into real business.
Yeah, well, dude, it takes 7 years to become an overnight success. Yeah. And the technology is one part of the puzzle. And you know, business is really difficult and a lot of people don't recommend it. I mean, don't recommend it because, dude, you got to be so freaking resilient, dude. I don't know if you've had that. I've had times, dude, I remember my first startup where, dude, they promised the world, dude, we're going to go live because I had like 3,000 new customers a month this time. He's like, Jack, we're going to sell these services. It's going to be like 30K a month. You're going to be on the beach sipping pina coladas. And I was like, this is great. And I was like, I still working my day job at that time. And I was like, this is so cool. And then we went live. And then it was like, I don't know, $65 or something. And it was like so freaking deflating. And you're like, you realize, okay, you got to be resilient. Like this is an important skill set, and then you bounce back, and then you kind of figure it out, and then you just kind of grow and scale it from there. But this is why I think there's got to be probably a good expectation setting on this stuff about you are not going to be, you would be unusual if your first business was $1 million business. That's not typical, but it's a question of when, not if you are prepared to stick the course and run with it.
I mean, that's literally the main thing. Like all you need to do is to succeed in business is never quit and keep improving.
Yeah.
Just like the faster you can keep improving, and as long as you never quit, you're gonna win,
That's it. Yeah.
It's simple but not easy, right? And with AI, you can learn those business lessons faster. You can say like, okay, I'm about to hire my first developer. Before you would go completely blind, but now you can say, okay, what are the 5 biggest mistakes that new startup founders make when hiring a backend developer? What are the 10 questions I should ask on the screening interview? And you get like this such a huge jump that maybe, in the past you would have to do 20 screening interviews to get the same information that one prompt to, O3 or GPT 4.5 will get you. So I think it's just like speeds up the process. While in the past, maybe it would take decades to become a millionaire. Now anybody can do it like 3 years, I think.
Yeah, was actually one of my thoughts on AI is like it does one of two things. One is it either reduces cognitive load, so it does the thinking for me, so I don't have to figure it out, like reading a contract, or it reduces the number of executions of time I have to do something. And one trap I see people getting into is they will spend, I don't know, an hour to get AI to solve a problem they could have done themselves in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's an intelligence thing about, like, am I getting an ROI on my investment with that? I mean, it's always a classic automated thing. I'll spend a week automating something that costs me 5 minutes every time. Yeah.
But I would say like on average, that is good, Because like if you have that mindset that you're going to automate something, most people don't automate anything, right? And there's like processes where it's like so inefficient that creating the automation will take you just like one time doing it. And then each week after that, it's free time. So I would say it's probably better to like over index on that. I'm going to try solve this with AI. Well, if you did it yourself, because then you have the lesson, right? You're like, okay, this took way too long with AI. I would have knew it myself. And then you remember that. So like you're almost fine tuning yourself in real time, because if you never tried that, same with the automations, like, okay, I automated this. I spent 3 hours building automation, but it only saves me like 20 seconds per week, right? But then like, okay, some things are not worth automating. So like, I think you need those fails to...
You do. And actually there's this fallacy of the perfect path, which says that I will make the perfect beeline. It's like, no, you're not. You're going to wander in the wasteland. Yeah.
So many people who have this, and that's why they never start.
They don't. They absolutely don't. I mean, like a good example I give to you, it's like a really simple, silly example, but I learned Premiere Pro editing 2 years ago. That was one of the highest leverage skills I picked up. But what people don't know is I also learned Adobe After Effects, and I fussed around with floating 3D titles for about a week. But it was like, that obviously didn't translate into anything, but you're never going to get 100% strike rate on the skills that you invest in. So you just need to, but you don't need to either, by the way. You do 10, if one of them hits, that pays for all your losers and then some. It's the classic power law, even with Silicon Valley investing, right?
Yeah.
They get 20 companies. Like when I was raising, they said, dude, one of them pays for the other 19. That's just basically the way that rocks and roll. It's also the same principle with skill investment and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so sad, like how many people just never start because they look for the perfect opportunity, right? It's like, oh, I don't have the right startup idea. I don't know what automation to build. I don't know what. It's like, you're never going to know.
You're not going to know. Perfect is the enemy of success. There's no question about that.
And my first business didn't make any money. Like it was a mobile game. And I spent like 10 months building it. I launched it. It got like 1,000 downloads, but made $0.
Yeah.
And it's like, imagine if you tell somebody you're going to work 10 months on a business, almost full-time hours, and it's going to make $0. It's like, what? Why? I would just work McDonald's, right? This is like the stupidest arguments, like, oh, you would have made more if you worked McDonald's. It was like, that's not the point.
It's not. It's like you are getting paid. You're just not getting paid in pounds and pence yet. You're getting paid in experiences and skills, which translate into money. Which is why, actually, if you think about it, realistically, one of the tenets are, again, I'm not an expert in this stuff at all. I'm just kind of figuring out like everyone else. But one principle that I've seen work a lot for people is they just think over longer time periods. They're just willing to do it for a long period of time. Like if you started YouTube and said, if I don't make any progress in 3 months, you may as well not start. Like you may, like possibly, but you need to be ready to do it for a really long period of time because that's going to help you ride out the peaks and the troughs of it.
Yeah. Personally, I'm like so locked into this mindset that I cannot even relate. There is no situation in which like, even if all of my, like YouTube got banned you removed my paid community, you destroyed my startup. There is 0% chance you're like, oh well, I guess I'm gonna go back to a 9 to 5. Like no, there is no world.
Yeah.
There's no world. I would go back like in Czech Republic, live for like 1K a month, and just like I would work 20 hours a day. There's no like, world, I would say like, okay, I guess, if the next YouTube video doesn't do well, I'll pack it up. It's like, what?
Yeah, you'd figure it out.
Exactly.
You'll figure it out. I like that like mindset of we will figure it out. But it's also, look at what you've done before. You've always figured it out. Like,
yeah, but I guess that comes from like, I don't know, how much of that do you think it's like, you need to build the proof, right? Because some people, if they don't do that in the early years, they need to do that later, and then it's harder.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, it's tough because I don't know, like it's easy to get imposter syndrome, but you have to back yourself, and like people who have this almost delusional belief that they'll crush it. I mean, that was interesting that I think it was someone was saying this, that like founders that have a delusional view on what they can do is positive. You actually see this advice echoed from loads of investors. Like actually, that's why like not knowing the industry in some respects is a good thing, because you're not going to be deterred from doing it by challenging the status quo because of that. Yeah, so it's like you do need an unreasonable belief in yourself to make it happen.
But I think that's like a lot of that is just nature, like how you're born.
Yeah, I guess that's tough actually. Like it's really knowledge is the big driver of the outcome and quality. I think knowledge plus, I mean, like to know and not do is the same as not knowing. So it's knowledge plus action. That's the key bit. Like you got to know and then you got to execute. And it's actually wild to me. Like we were talking about universities yesterday. Like in the UK, it's £9,000 a year.
It's crazy.
And so you end up pretty much like after accommodation stuff, like 50K a year, and the interest rate's like 5 or 6%. So majority of people won't pay it off. So it basically functions as a student tax. But then you look at decentralized education, like the value of content on YouTube now and also in communities is unbelievable. Like your return on investment per dollar spent is just completely unmatched for that sort of stuff. So I think there's not a knowledge problem, it's an execution problem.
I mean, if someone joined your community, which is what, 50?
$77.
Okay, $77, and learned everything in there, like they instantly have a 6-figure skill. If you become an expert AI automation builder, that's a 6-figure skill. Like, so any business needs it. Any business.
And there's so many applications. It's exactly the same with your community did. It's like just learning and applying is crazy. And it's like my whole thing was no one. There's a lot of stuff people just never explain to you, and that's kind of what I know you tried to do. I tried to do. So like, if I was just speaking to myself, like, what is just the freaking no nonsense 20% of stuff that actually freaking works, and just like actually freaking do that. But the thing is, like, you never want to fully just follow like one person. I think it's good to get information from different things, but the only caveat to that is you can't be trying to execute too many strategies at the same time.
For sure.
And then none of them end up working.
Well, that's why I think it's actually probably on average better to follow one person. Because like, if you follow like 3 different people, one guy's teaching this, other guy's teaching that, like you're trying to flip properties and then like detail cars and then like drop shipping. It's like,
Yeah, drop shipping and all the crazy stuff actually. Yeah, it's absolutely wild, dude.
But yeah, I mean, if you stick to one thing and, you get the best at it, like every business model works, right?
Yeah.
It's like even the simplest ones like lawn mowing, dry cleaning, there's billion-dollar companies in those, right? So
yeah, it's like, it's funny. I don't know if your experience, but my experience has always been like long periods of like consistency and then like a burst of like huge like 10x event and then loads of consistency, then 10x event. And you do get points where you just continue to grow and improve, but it's more like you're moving things in the margins. Like I always find like you have a massive learning period, and then all the learning catches up. Your results catch up with your learnings, and you want a learning surplus against your results, not the other way around.
I mean, it's the same with like any aspect in life. Like if you go to the gym, for like 10 years or whatever. It depends how hard you're training, but like for first 90%. I would say like you will get almost no validation, you'll see slow progress. But in the last 10%, it's like exponentially. You get compliments, you start like getting better results everywhere, and you start like being strong, stuff like that. Same in dating. Like if you start with nothing, let's say, you're fat, not successful, whatever, like you'll go years without like any interest. And then like once you are successful, once you are in great shape, everything, you'll get like infinite
all the results.
Options.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting how it works that way, man.
It's the same in business, same in YouTube,
Yeah. It's like people it's easy to say this mindset stuff's not viable. It's the core stuff. It's like I believe if you stripped away these fundamental beliefs, it's tough to make any of it work. you need to have these like fundamental
Yeah, I mean,
mindsets.
if you believe you can do it, like that's the main thing, right? I don't think you need to be a IQ genius. Like as long as you can believe you can do it, you can compensate for lack of intelligence or whatever with these AI tools. But like if you try every day, if you put in 2, 3, 4 hours every single day, and you just are refusing to give up, like sooner or later you're gonna make it.
Yeah, well, it's that thing about like IQ is important up to a threshold. Then it's not that you get no benefits, it's just a diminishing return of value per additional IQ point. Rest of it's going to be action, learning, resilience, and just improvement over time. It's like, I find it really interesting when you have, you speak, it's why like I feel your network's really important because it can reset the standard of what the thing is. Like either reset the standard of what work is. Like if you meet a buddy and they're working like twice as hard as you, you're like, holy crap, I need to like completely level up my game a little bit.
I mean, it's impossible to be fat if you were like 4 friends are bodybuilders, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So this is like a huge thing. And again, these are like the basics of self-improvement, right? That everybody learns, but that's the core of life. It applies always at all levels. So if nobody you're talking to in your life is interested in AI, join a community where people are interested in AI. Make some friends. Like that's how to get better at it in the easiest way. Instead of swimming upstream, just like make the water flow where you want to flow.
Well, dude, it's just the difficulty setting on your life is your environment and your friends. Like, if you've got guys and gals around you that are after the same thing you're after and are pushing you forward, you're just going to win more because it's just like, they'll say, hey, bro, no, come back over here. You're making some mistakes. It's like, it sounds so silly. Like I was speaking to a friend of mine and I said, dude, I think you have a real gift for creativity. I think you're really gifted in this particular thing. And I said, you should go and pursue that. But then my last words to him were like, and it was unsolicited, but I really want this guy to do well. I said, you need to surround yourself with people that are doing something similar. I said, because like, if you don't, like, it's just going to be really difficult for you to go and make this work. Like you need to be around people that are doing it. Friends in your area and stuff. Yeah. So it's like your environment is critical. Yeah.
Okay. So if you were a complete beginner and you wanted to get into AI, what would be your first few moves?
I say I'm a big believer in personal foundations. So when I think about like, okay, business first, then I'm going to drill down context into AI. Like, you cannot create a significant, or it's going to be difficult for you to create a significant income with AI if your personal fitness is way out of whack, if your personal finances are way out of whack, if you're not learning, if you're not growing. So I'm a big believer in personal foundations. If you want to start with AI, it would depend on what your objective is. I would say regardless of where you're at, AI can improve your life in multiple ways. The first step I'd say is personal usage. Grabbing AI and just using it and applying it for many different things. Once you've done that and you're getting used to the kind of way these model works, I am a big believer in the value created by AI automations. And I'd go ahead and I'd start building my very first one and developing in that way. But there's no way around just using it and then start building out step from step, I think now.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be useful for your life, right? Like you can watch YouTube videos, stuff like that, but everybody's life is different. And if you're not like asking it about your problems, then it's not going to be useful for you. Same with the automations. Like you can replicate some automations you've seen on your channel, or my channel, whatever. But like the best automation is going to be the one relevant to your business, or your life.
Yeah, and here's a funny thing. So I've met hundreds of people from my community, right? I have never met 2 people that are doing the exact same thing. And one thing I found people struggling with at the moment is this imposter syndrome. And I said, look, well, okay, I spoke to a guy who had a really good background in business cybersecurity. I said, dude, that's your unique edge. Like you're bringing all this depth and complexity with your knowledge in cybersecurity to the table. Plus you're now leveraging AI on top of that. Like that's unique, dude. No one else has got that. Like you need to, and it's like everyone can do, it's AI plus all the stuff you bring to the table. Like that's what creates this unique thing. Like you don't have to, like there's far less people trying to do the thing that you want to do than actually are.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like, a chiropractor, you don't have to be a genius at AI. Like if you understand a bit of AI and you're good at, being a chiropractor, then you can create like the best AI chatbot for chiropractors. Boom, that's like $50K a month.
That's it.
It's like
you're there because they're just not doing it.
Yeah, you're just targeting a niche where you have your unique advantage. And so many people, this is another huge mistake, they like reset every time, right? So instead of their first business building on top of second business, right? Like my previous was a gaming channel and then I have an AI channel. It's building on top of it. They like completely pivot, right? So like their second business is like completely unrelated. Their first business is completely unrelated. And they're starting from zero each time. Like sure, there are some lessons that apply everywhere, but like if you're gonna pivot, make sure it builds on top of each other.
Yeah, it's like, I think people typically do that because it's comfortable. They've done it before, they can just do it again. And it's like
see the progress from 0 to 5, but like going from 5 to 6 is hard, right? But if you go from 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 5.
But dude, I don't know if you found this, like my biggest failures in life, like when I've gone through those growth periods, like it feels the worst feeling ever. And it's like but that's when you're in your growth zone. That's when you're actually growing, you're getting ready to level up. When you're at that worst point where you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. Or, oh my God. Like I'll give you an example, dude. We bought a house and I got made redundant from my job. The day we bought it, we both got made redundant. Well, dude, we got this big house. We didn't have our jobs. And I was like, well, we're going to figure it out. And then we ended up getting like, so it was like, and you're thinking, crap, we need to figure it out. And then you apply yourself. And then the end result of that story was we ended up getting like better jobs, better paying jobs at the time. And we crushed it. But it was like, that kind of taught me that and I've seen this scenario so many times in my life, when you feel you're losing control or things are going the wrong direction, that's actually the time when you're getting ready to level up because you have to push out and perform better. And so one thing I want to try to be better at is risk taking and being more bold with the risks that you take, because you'll probably succeed with it anyway if you try.
Actually, a similar thing happened to me, a completely different situation, but like same concept, is that before I went into YouTube, I was doing like video editing for Facebook ad creatives, right? So like dropshippers, every dropshipper needs a Facebook ad video edited, right, for their product. So I was doing that video editing, and I was doing the lead generation in like the dropshipping communities on Facebook groups, right? One day I just got banned from 3 at once, completely randomly, and that was like basically my leads, that was my lead generation. I was like, okay, this is it. I took like 15-minute cold shower. I was like, I'm not going back to this. I hate this. I'm going on YouTube, and like that was the month where I first had my first successful video. It's like I locked in completely. I was like, I'm going on YouTube. I need to make at least $15 a day. That was my, Czech Republic calculation. I was like, $15 a day. That's what I need. And I was like, this is possible, right? And like most people would probably quit in that point. So like your main business, it was making like 1.5K a month. The video editing business just lost all the leads. So I was like, this is the time to pivot. This is the time to like go into YouTube because I hate this so much. And the outcome was obviously YouTube would made me way more money. So. Yeah.
Isn't that really funny though? It's like and it makes you, if you had this idea of like, if it's a mile away, you will walk. If it's 2 miles away, you will drive, but you'll actually get there quicker if you drive.
Yeah.
It's like the danger zone is where it's kind of comfortable.
I have this saying, sometimes bad is worse than terrible. If something is terrible, like if you have a stone in your shoe and, it's like hurting really bad, you take it off. Yeah. But if it's just like some small pebble isn't that bad, you'll keep walking with it, right?
You keep doing it.
It'll be
you
annoying.
Tolerate it. Yeah. It's like good is the enemy of excellent.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of taking those risks and just pushing out and smashing it. Yeah.
But one thing I recently realized on the topic of risk is that there is no risk. Like so many people just see risk in ways that it's not risky at all. I think like the only real person who understands is Elon. Like he's just constantly willing to risk everything. But if you think about it, like what is the biggest risk, right? Like even for us, like we have probably family members that would allow us to stay at their place, right? So even if we lost everything, okay, worst case we move to some owned, second room garage and we work there. It's like, is that really that bad? No. It's like the worst possible scenario is not even that bad.
Yeah.
So I think like I really believe in the concept of there is no risk. Almost anybody that sees like, oh, that's risky. Like really, like what's the worst case scenario? Like, if you have some savings, if you have some family members, some friends, some people that you helped in the past, like unless you're completely homeless without anybody, then like you're not gonna die. It's so hard to be in a situation where the downside will like put you in prison or you'll die.
Yeah, it's like that. I resonate with this so much. Like even Bezos saying this recently, that the risks are less than you think, the opportunities are greater than you think. And it's like, yeah, you want to be emboldened. Like, actually, what is the downside? Because the reason why people don't take risks, I believe, is because it is a defined cost for an undefined benefit. That's the reason why. I will lose something by trying this. What if it doesn't work? Well, what if it does work? Actually, and it's that strike rate fallacy of I have to be 100% correct. So there's something about trying to take speculative bets on yourself. People do it on investments all the time, right? They do it on crypto, they do it on Ripple, whatever it is. But how many speculative bets do you take on yourself? And you're infinitely more valuable. You get the compounding effects of that knowledge and those benefits the rest of your life. And I mean, I was watching a podcast recently with Joe Rogan and Ilya Tapori. He's like the flyweight champ. He's just moved up. One thing I love about his mindset was, if somebody else has done it, he said, well, I can do it. And if it hasn't been done before, I'll be the first one to do it. And that's like really freaking, you should have this kind of mindset because it emboldens you to try it and push out and just freaking go for it and smash it.
Yeah, this reminded me of a different quote. It's like, there are 2 types of things to never worry about. Things you can't change and things you can.
Yeah.
So then you realize like there's nothing to worry about, because if you can't change it, you can't change it. If you can change it, then do something and change it.
Yeah, because I love, you're really big on that stoic thing. I've become more stoic over the past couple of years. And I just see everything from a lens of return on investment on energy spend. And I get to the point where I'm like, can I influence the outcome? If the answer is no, then I put it over that. And actually, big thing for me, bro, was like coming to the realization that you are always going to have fires burning at some time.
Yeah.
And you don't need to. And I'm the kind of guy that I would rather have like clarity and get it done, sit down at the table and just get it figured out. I struggled with having multiple things that were unresolved at the same time until I realized like that's actually the state of that's the cost of doing this stuff, is you're going to have things that just burn slightly in the background. And when I became comfortable with that, I just focused on areas of my control. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, definitely a big change.
Yeah, I brainwash myself in the same way. Like recently, when anytime something bad happens, like for example, recently my AdSense got taken away. I lost like $9,000 from YouTube revenue, and I was like, okay. Obviously, you get like pissed in the moment, but then I was like, instantly, I switched my mindset to like, this is why most people are entrepreneurs.
Yes,
like they couldn't handle this. Most people would quit this moment right away and like instantly put a smile onto my face. Like, okay, no big deal. You know, I'm gonna solve this, and this is why I get to reap the benefits of being in business.
That's true. It is that mindset of this is where most people quit. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. But it's also it's your time frame. You're looking at it from a position of like today. Like you just got to broaden it out and look at your trajectory and what you're doing, and then you'll get a better perspective on it.
Yeah, but the again, ability to think long term is super rare, because like this is where people like finance their DoorDash, you know.
Like, yeah, that's true actually. Yeah,
people get into long term debt. People like everybody sacrifices. I've seen a crazy stat. 60% of people going to right now is Coachella, right?
Yeah.
60% of people going to Coachella finance their ticket.
Really?
60%.
Wow.
So you go into debt to listen to music. It's like what?
That is ridiculous. Well, okay, why do you think that is?
Just short-term thinking. Like everybody is, you know, this is why people like eat unhealthy food or skip the gym. It's like short-term comfort for long-term success.
I heard a girl once say to me, like she was buying something from a shop, and someone put her credit card out, and someone just made an offhanded comment to her like, "Oh, can you afford that? By the way?" She said, "I don't know. That's a future me problem," and she pinged it, and I was like, "That's so funny," because like the way I try to think, but I want to like. You want to make life easier for yourself in the future, not more difficult. But that financial education thing is huge. You actually take it for granted when you know. I remember when I just started my grad scheme after my degree, and I was like, I need to buy a house, right? I need like 10K to buy a house in 2016 or something. And I was like, dude, how the hell do you do that? That's crazy. And then someone showed me the budget, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then I went down the whole rabbit hole, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Dave Ramsey, all that sort of stuff, and built up my financial education to the point where like, I was freaking locked in. Every single pound had a mission. I was investing like 40%, blah, 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 blah. But before that, you don't know. And you take financial education. It's easy to judge people based on the yardstick of your years. You have to like put, where was I when I was that age? But it really like, it baffles me. Yeah, it really does baffle me. I have a lot of compassion for people that like are over the place with that stuff. But for me, like, I could never like.
But I think this is like the system is designed this way. Like it could easily be taught in school. There's so much time in school, you know. Why isn't there like 1 hour per week teaching the basics of finance?
Because I think the teachers don't know.
Well, yeah, but the educational system is designed that way.
Well, it's my belief that in the UK, like it's funny that you go through school and you have like one view of it. Like these teachers are held up as you think of them as like experts in like life or whatever they're doing, and then you become an adult and you reflect back on the memory. You see it through a new lens. And you realize, actually, they didn't really know what the hell they were talking about and almost anything they were saying. And like, yeah, we're not taught basic financial stuff. Like the UK is a good example of this, man, because we have what I call a one wrong economy. The idea was, David, like you and I pay into our pensions. They're going to say, great, awesome. We're going to ring fence that. We're going to invest it. And then when you're 65, 70 and you want to do whatever, it's going to be there. So no. Your pension, what you pay in pension is paying the current pensioners. Yeah. Because we squandered their money. It's ridiculous. They'd be far better off putting 5K, 10K per new child born in a index fund global tracker, and then for 65 years, and then they would all retire millionaires.
Of course.
That would be so much freaking better to do that way. But it's not, and it will collapse once it goes up like this. And so I say this to say, you cannot depend on the government to solve your problems. Absolutely. You really can't, man. Yeah, it's bad.
There's so many topics I want to touch here. It's crazy. But yeah, pensions will soon explode because the newer generations are smaller than the last generations, right? Like people are not having kids. Like 2.1 kids per couple per woman is the replacement rate, right? The average in Europe is like what, 1.4, 1.5?
Is
Obviously,
that
there's
low?
countries
Wow.
like Japan and South Korea is even worse, right? But still, you need to have at least 2.1 kids. This, I think, like the conversation needs to change from like, oh, do you want to have kids or not? I think it needs to change to like, why don't you have kids? Or like, why don't you have 3 kids, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, think about it. Everybody says the excuse is like, oh, I don't know if it's the right time. I don't know if it's financially responsible. People, like, if you go 4 generations back, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, what did our like ancestors do? The man worked in a coal mine 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. They had like no money, barely survived, 8 kids.
That's it. That's it. Well, they would argue, if they were playing devil's advocate, that it was easier to do it. But I still think, yeah, we're at a point now where you're unusual. Okay, my parents had like I'm sure yours as well, like so freaking young. Now, if you're in your 20s and you have a kid, it's almost seen as you're having children quite young. We've definitely changed the standard of that in our society now. People are having kids later, and actually a lot less kids.
But it's fine if you're a man, because you can have kids in your 70s, right?
You can,
But
yeah.
if this is like
Robert
so...
De Niro, right? Robert De Niro's just done that. He's
Say
like
again?
80.
Oh,
I think
Robert
he's
De Niro, yeah.
Yeah.
But
great.
for women, it's so damaging. It's crazy. 3 is the minimum amount above 2.1. If you have 2 kids, the society is dying. Because some people die before they have kids, right? If your kid dies at 14 and it gets hit by a bus, then that kid cannot replicate. So you need to have at least 2.1 kids, which means 3. So 3 is the minimum.
Yeah.
So anything less than 3 should be like looked down upon. That's how we need to shift it, because otherwise, like, we're just dying out.
But how do you change like society's view on that? I guess it's like, to be fair, we convince people to use diamond rings for engagement. It's like that psychological influence of the population is important. You got to get them like fired up and believing that they want kids again.
But look at all the like media and newsletters and stuff like that. What is it telling women? Don't rely on men. Like, you need to be independent woman. This is like the biggest dream of any woman right now, to be independent girl.
Yeah, it's damaging. Yeah, it's definitely damaging. Yeah, for sure.
Kids are not being promoted. It's like, what's being promoted is like kid-free life. They show a couple on the beach, right? It's like, oh, kid-free life, you can travel the world. It's like, having kids is like one of the best bets you can make. Because if you ask a parent, do you regret having kids? It's like 99 to 1. 99% chance they say, of course not. Like, I love my kid, right?
Yeah.
This very small percentage of parents would say like, oh, I wish my kid didn't exist.
I'm surprised there's even 1% either. That's like crazy.
I'm giving an example, like, 99 to 1. But like, it's one of the best bets you can make in life. Where else do you have odds that like, if I make this decision, 99% I'm going to be very happy that I made it, 1% or, less than 1% that I didn't. There's not many bets in life like that, Maybe like going to the gym is another one. But like 99 to 1 is crazy. So having kids and having a lot of kids is probably one of the best decisions anybody can make statistically.
I love how passionate you are about this stuff, man. It's like this.
Well, I mean, what's the
social stuff,
alternative? Like, see, this topic, like, it's hard to talk about because the ultimate conclusion that we're dying out. That's the ultimate conclusion, right? Because like, if you don't have enough kids, you're dying out.
But I think like the problem with that is like people won't make decisions based on humanity's future because they're so focused on their own lives, I think. So like, I think repopulation of the planet probably ranks somewhere near like 0 on their decision to have children. Yeah. That's got to be driven by the governments, I think.
I think it goes hand in hand. Because if you do have children, then you care about the future of the world more. If you don't have kids, you can be maximum selfish and you don't care about inflation. You don't care if Europe goes to shit.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. Well, I mean, like, for me, I think kids are... I mean, like, my perspective is like, I always kind of wanted to get to a certain level before I had, like... I think, like, guys, is my experience, are usually ready slightly later than gals, which is I thought was quite interesting. But, dude, I'm really looking forward to that chapter of my life. But it's like... It's one of the biggest undertakings you could ever do, and you got to treat it like a lot of like, care, due and attention with it, I think. So is your vision then, man, to raise a family in Dubai, or would you do that in a different country?
Yeah, this is a hard question. I mean, personally, I'm from Czech Republic, which isn't as bad as UK. I would say actually it's one of the best spots. Like Czech Republic and Poland, amazing countries. Poland is, I think, after COVID, had the biggest growth of economy. Poland is like very anti-immigration, very safe. I think it's the only country in Europe with 0 terrorist attacks. Poland is great, so either Poland or Czech Republic. But again, it's difficult to see where it will be in 10, 20 years, So the thing about Dubai is I don't think it's like it's almost like not like a real place, It's like almost too safe, I don't know. I feel like I would much rather have my kids in Central or Eastern Europe, which still is kind of normal compared to the West, than Dubai. But personally, I don't think I'll be in Dubai forever.
Yeah.
I think like maybe like 1 to 3 more years, and then I'll probably go back to Europe. Because in that time, I probably want to start having kids.
Yeah, that'd be perfect overlay for you. I mean, like Dubai, I've been blown away by how like friendly and safe Dubai is. I'm really impressed with the city. Like
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with the city. I just kind of at the moment like Ubering around different places.
But like, what's your idea where you want to raise your family?
Well, what was interesting to me, like I've always loved the idea of having, like not being a pure resident in one country, but having like if you're
Yeah, yeah.
able to maybe just kind of spread have like nodes on a network, like
Yeah, yeah.
have a little spot here that you go, a little spot over there. Like I really loved Big Bear in LA. That was awesome. And that kind of showed me, oh, this is the kind of place you'd go for Christmas for 2 months, like with your family and stuff. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of thinking I'd need to do on like educational development and like weirdly enough, all the people I've met in my life who moved a lot around with their children, the children are incredibly articulate, intelligent. They just seem to be really well-rounded human beings. So that's just anecdotally what I've seen. So I think that's really cool. And I don't know personally, bro. I'd have to think about it, but part of me is thinking on lines of, yeah, maybe have a couple. I think I would struggle to just lock myself down in one location
Yeah, I
and
agree.
just be that. So I would love to do it in a way that I could like explore the world, show them really epic stuff, and just like go from place to place. Not necessarily we're moving with like rucksacks on our backs type of thing, but like having a couple of spots that you kind of flee between.
Yeah. So what spots do you have in mind?
Well, I actually Googled it as I did. Well, where is the best place in the world to live? And the one that comes up top all the time is Zurich in Switzerland. And I was
Okay.
like, cool. So I'm going to check that out.
I was there a month ago.
Oh, dude, how did you find that? What was it like?
Great. I mean, Switzerland is amazing. Like the nature is next. I don't know. Maybe like Norway can only rival it, but yeah, nature in Switzerland is crazy. I definitely would want to have like at least one like winter place, either Austria or Switzerland.
That'd be
Because
cool.
I love skiing, so I would just have something there.
Well, dude, this funny thing. So I lived in Rome for a year. And what I always tell, my biggest takeaway from that is that like, you can only understand your own country when you go and live in a different country. So like, I'd encourage everybody to go and try that once.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I lived in Paris for like almost 2 months. And
Oh,
you know,
wow.
Now,
Okay.
now I know I don't want to live in Paris.
No, you're not in Paris. But you've got to like test. That's one thing I'd love to do the next couple of years is like, because we do a lot of meetups like international stuff. Like you get to go to the country, experience it, live it, see what it's like and say, hey, cool, I really freaking love that. And if you did, you can move there and do it. It's also like weird, different cities and different countries can vary quite wildly as well. Where's the value created from an investment perspective, right? That we touched on Africa and stuff, but like I'm interested about second order effects of AI and what that looks like. Like there's this idea, there's a guy called Gary's Economics. He's like blown up in the UK. He did like a big debate with a guy called Daniel Priestley on Diary of a CEO. It was a really, really interesting discussion. And Daniel Priestley was advocating for basically being realistic, use an individual. What can you do to maximize your return and grow your own personal world? Gary's perspective was, hey, this is the economic reality for the 70 million people in this country. This is what we're heading up to. So his background was like he's made like, you know, millions in trading, all this sort of stuff. And his philosophy is that the middle class in the UK is getting like eroded and like slowly broken down. So if you are fortunate enough to have like a 6-figure salary in the UK, you're actually under, I would say, the most pressure per square inch possible, because like your effective tax rate's becoming 50%, at least on your income tax. Then plus obviously national insurance and all the other bits and pieces. And he said that the whole idea is like, if you look at economies that lose their middle class, and you have this big division between guys that make lots of money at the top and their wealth basically accumulates because of lack of interest, and then people who fall towards the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder, you have more inequality. You know, it's his view and his philosophy that we're on a one-way track to, I don't want to misrepresent what he's saying, but my understanding is that's the direction travel we're heading on, which I thought was really interesting actually about how that works. And it's like, my view, looking at the UK, I'm just seeing these negative trends everywhere that I look. And I think it's at the point where like you just can't avoid it anymore. It's just, that's just seems the direction that we're heading in.
Yeah, but what caused those negative trends? It's the government. It's the decisions made by the leaders. And what is Gary advocating for? More taxes. The guy, in my opinion, is a complete retard. Like,
Right, yeah.
respectfully, I don't know if you can say respectfully, but like, how is more taxes going to solve this? More money to the people who are corrupt, who are making the bad decisions. The only way to solve this is to abolish the entire system. All the people that caused this downfall of UK, which not that long ago, 150 years ago, was the greatest nation in the world. I mean, the British Empire
We
was
own
like
half the world, actually, yeah.
yeah, the British Empire was crazy, right? And now, like, UK is literally on one of the worst trajectories of all countries in the world. So those people that caused it should be, like, publicly hanged. They shouldn't get more money. More money is only going to affect the lower people, like the working class people. Millionaires, as you said, the statistics show it, move abroad. You cannot tax a billionaire. He will set up his company in Hong Kong or Marshall Islands, blah, 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 this and that. He will tax optimize, boom. You can only tax the working class man. So increasing taxes, absolutely idiotic idea. I don't think there's more idiotic ideas than that. And you're just destroying the people that are already like struggling.
I think, I'm not sure if he even advocates for more taxing. I think his perspective is, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but the idea of like extreme, he wants to, as I understand it, the philosophy is that you take money from extreme wealth, not on earned income.
Yeah, but by the wealth, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's actually like the UK now is looking at exit tax.
Canada has it. It's disgusting.
You want to leave, they take it, and it's weird because like, you are right. People who get to a point of like a significant wealth can avoid it anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not like you can't tax your way to a prosperous economy. I really believe that. Like I think you've got to drop the taxes to encourage growth. It's like you're reaping the fields. Sometimes you just gotta let water it, let it grow, let the people come, and they will spend more as a result of that.
50% is absolutely disgusting, man. Like half of your life. If you put it like, if you work every day, that's 180 days stolen by the government each year.
And it's worse than that. It's worse than that because on top of that, you've also then got your national insurance. Then you've got 20% on every item you purchase. Then when you buy a house, you're taxed. Then when you die, it's taxed. When you're stamp tax, it's like your effective rate. I think there is a number. I'll try and find it. I think it's like high 60%. I'm going to find out the effective tax rate because I'd be really curious about that.
But this is even worse than that because then you look at where the money is going. Ireland is a great example, right? In Ireland, what they're paying for is like they're paying for people to go to these like poor countries like Jordan, Syria and stuff like that to find people to move to Ireland.
Really? Wow.
So your taxes, if you're an Irish citizen, are going towards funding the government, which pays for like scouts. They go to countries and they try to convince them to come to Ireland. So it's not just like immigrants that want to move there. There's literally people paid by the government that go into these third world countries to convince people to move to Ireland. And this is where the taxes go.
What's the rationale of doing that, do you think?
There's no rationale. It's just destroying society. I mean, obviously, they will try to say like, we're boosting the workforce. We're, blah, blah, blah. They'll try to make it, but, let's be honest. We know what the outcome is going to be. The outcome is absolutely destructive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why lots of people now are looking at Dubai or Cyprus or these other locations.
But the interesting part about Dubai is it's one of the most multicultural places in the world, right?
Yeah.
There's people from everywhere. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Canada, United States, Europe. But it's safe. Why? I thought about this, right? Not only are they trying to attract all the entrepreneurs, all the people who create the jobs, create the services, create the companies, but also from the third world countries, they're selecting the best of the best. Anybody that's here, doesn't matter if they're India, Pakistan, whatever, they speak perfect English. They're selecting the best people, even from the bad countries. It's the best people, right? In Europe, it's the exact opposite.
Where are you investing your money at the moment?
Bitcoin.
So tell me about crypto. Do you think it's still a significant opportunity?
I don't touch any other coins than Bitcoin.
Really? Okay. So
because Bitcoin is pure. Nobody knows who the founder is. There's limited 21 million. The hash rate is growing exponentially. It's decentralized. There's so many things that if you look at Ethereum, which is number 2 in terms of market cap, that there's 20 reasons why you should buy Bitcoin over Ethereum. So I think there's completely 2 different categories. You have Bitcoin and you have the rest of crypto.
Well, what about index funds?
Yeah, index funds are great.
Yeah.
I mean, but the issue with index funds is you see 12% growth, but if you look at the monetary expansion over the last 5 years, it's 10.4%. So if you have money in the S&P, you're not earning 12% a year. You're earning 1 to 2%, which coincidentally, it's not coincidental, is the real productivity growth GDP rate. So you're basically earning the productivity growth. So you're earning 2% maybe if you have S&P over inflation, right? Obviously, if you have cash, then you're losing buying power 10% a year right now, which is just insanity. But if you hold S&P, you're making a bit of money, just not losing. Everything else is worse. What I found amazing, people always find these investment vehicles that make less money than the S&P, but take way more work, right? For example, properties and stuff like that. there's people who had got rich in real estate, obviously, but the average property owner who's like 1, 2, 3 flats. Okay, so are you going to manage it yourself? Are you going to call people when they call that the water is broken or the washing machine doesn't work? Are you going to fix it yourself? Oh no, I'm going to have a manager. Boom, profit margin gone. So you're making way less than S&P with way more work. So many investment opportunities are literally this. So if people are listening, I would recommend you start with S&P, okay? Buy S&P every month automatically. Once you start get educated about Bitcoin, start buying Bitcoin. Those two things, I think you can get insanely wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, like, the index funds, like, when they average, like a global index fund tracker is like 10%, 11%.
Yep.
I don't want an exciting investing strategy and a simple life. I want a simple investing strategy and an exciting life. And I think, like, it's like index funds, right? Like, you can average like 10 to 12% with that. Like, it's just like a shovel and leave. But I do recognize that I'm also thinking, like, intelligently about, okay, my philosophy is, right, 3 things you can do with money. One is earn, the other is save, and the other is grow. Like, earn, retain, grow, right? My philosophy was actually, if you could just 10x the earning side,
of course.
Them doing 10, 11% is nothing. But then at a certain point, you want to kind of like set like an intelligent growth strategy. Like, Bitcoin's crazy. I remember it was $3,000, like it was like yesterday. That was only a couple of years ago. So do you think a lot of the crypto growth is in front of it? Because I guess my view is, where's the, like, okay, AI has defined utility. Like, it actually is genuinely changing things. Where do you think the utility of Bitcoin is? And do you think that affects like its growth?
Mainly store of value. There is a roughly there's roughly like $900 trillion worth of wealth in the world. Yeah. And roughly half of it is in like store of value. So like, real estate, gold, all of that stuff is just to store the value in something that is not cash. Because cash is terrible, right? All the rich people know that. Only people who save in cash are the poor people. Rich person has property, they have assets, right? So Bitcoin, a lot of people think like, oh, it's transactions, which by the way have been solved by the Lightning layer. But the main value is store of value. It's the perfect asset. There's no other asset on earth where you can buy a certain amount and you have that certain amount forever. Even if you buy a house, there can be more houses built next to it, But like, okay, so real estate has like actual utility, right? Because it's somewhere to live and stay. Gold, I agree with you on. Gold is a good point because gold has no inherent value, but we buy and we sell gold. I guess you could argue there's like, you can make gold into jewelry, right? But I guess it's like my pulse on some of the crypto stuff. I freaking love this emerging tech, and I do think it's gonna have a lot of utility. But like at the moment, it's like, what's the real world like difference it adds? Do you know what I mean? Like even like, well, that's the real world difference. There is no other asset where if you buy 1 Bitcoin, you hold 1/21 million of an asset. There's nothing else like this on the planet. Even stock, like stock company can issue more stock. Everything you can do can be done more. That's why like a lot of like exclusive high-end cars have value, right? It's a 1 of 20. It's 1 of 20. So the scarcity is one thing, but there's so many other things. Like it's decentralized, right? It's permissionless. You don't need to have a permission for a bank to make a Bitcoin transaction. You can send someone $1 billion right now, and it will clear in like 10 minutes. And also like the privacy, right? Obviously, if someone knows your wallet, then they can track you. But there is a lot of different ways to, if you have like multiple different wallets, you can have that set up. Also, you can have it decentralized. You can have like a multi-sig setup where you have like one signature in Switzerland, one signature in UK, one signature in Dubai, so that even if someone would come out to you like on the street with a gun, they cannot get your Bitcoin because you need all these signatures. It's so amazing how better it is than other assets in almost any other way. So by the way, I'm only saying this after like hundreds of hours of research.
Yeah.
I didn't buy any Bitcoin until I had like 70 solid hours of research.
Interesting.
And the more I research it, this is like AI. The more I research it, the more I believe in it. So honestly, like only like AI and Bitcoin have been the two main things in my life where like the more time I put into it, the more I like it.
Yeah, because it's at, what is it, $85,000 right now?
Yeah, and by the way, this is after all the other stocks and crashed like crazy, right? Tariffs and everything, it's holding at 85K.
Yeah, it reached 100,000. Dude, I remember it being 3K. It's so crazy. And I was thinking it was so expensive at 3K. How wild is that?
By the way, there is 65 million millionaires in the world. And there's only 21 million Bitcoin. So if every millionaire wanted to own 1 Bitcoin, he couldn't.
This is absolutely wild. Yeah, its growth is insane. So what do you think? Do you think it's going to pass 1 million per Bitcoin at some point?
It has to. Listen, the current price is just like market speculation, right? You cannot predict the price in the short term. Long term, it is supply and demand. The amount of people buying Bitcoin is increasing. the amount of Bitcoin being available on exchanges is decreasing. Why? First of all, people lose their Bitcoin all the time, right? They lose their keys, lose their wallet, whatever. People also die. When somebody dies, their Bitcoin is inaccessible if they, didn't say somebody. Some percentage of people who die tell other people, right? Their kids, whatever. But there's a good amount of percentage who just die and nobody else has access. So the amount of Bitcoin is being lost. Also, more and more people are holding it, which means they're buying it and never sell it. Which means the amount of Bitcoin in circulation is being less and less. Also, the halving. Every 4 years there's a halving, which means the amount of Bitcoin being mined, the fresh Bitcoin that the miners get, is being halved. Every 4 years it's halved. So there's many factors that are lowering the supply. So the amount of Bitcoin available on the exchanges that you can buy is less and less and less. The amount of people and institutions that want to buy it is more and more. So it will absolutely reach 1 million sooner or later. I cannot tell you why. I cannot tell you when, but it will absolutely reach it. It will also reach 10 million, obviously later, but it's just the supply and demand.
Interesting. Yeah, that does sound quite compelling to me. Yeah, because Bitcoin is the name child of it. It's the front runner. It's like people don't use it transactionally because it's too complicated. It's too cumbersome to use, isn't it? Like an actual real transactions. But as a store of value, yeah, it seems quite exceptional.
But even the transaction part is being solved. I was in Katowice, Poland, like 2 weeks ago, and there I saw 3 different Bitcoin stores and ATMs. So it is becoming more and more available. I have this app, on my phone. It's like Bitlify, whatever, I don't know. And you can just transact with a QR code. And you can scan a QR code and send it's like near instant. Lightning layer is like layer 2 on top of Bitcoin, where you can send transactions much faster and you don't have to pay the fee. This is like the future. This is going to be the transactions. Why would you wait on a bank? It's like, okay, only Monday through Friday, only 9 to 5. It's like so retarded. And the bank, if you send a lot of money, why you send this jack? How did you make it? No, I'm just going to send it on the Lightning layer instantly and see ya. So I think the transaction problem is going to be solved as well. But the main value is the sort of value. And I think it's easy to underestimate how much value is that. But again, almost half of all of world's assets is in store of value. All the real estate, all of like the pension funds, all of that is to store the value. And how do you store the value? You need to buy something that cannot be expanded. Bitcoin is the only asset that is programmatically set that it cannot be changed.
Okay, that's interesting. Dude, I'm going to have to look into that in more detail because, to me, when you're speaking to AI agents as well, their ability to transact, that needs to be done with Bitcoins.
It'll be done on the Lightning layer, which is layer 2 on top of Bitcoin.
Yeah, dude, that's freaking interesting. That's fascinating.
So I think that will be another use case. Once AI agents need to make like super microtransactions, like maybe 1% of a penny, just small transactions for accessing an API, accessing a website, stuff like that. It will need to be done with crypto. It cannot be done with a bank or credit card.
It's prohibitive. Yeah, the costs make it prohibitive to do it with the bank. Yeah, 100%. Dude, that's exciting. That's a cool technology to think about. That's kind of why I gravitate towards. I'm now starting to think about like cryptocurrencies because I've flirted with it and stuff, but I'm thinking more about it because of that very reason. Yeah, when it kind of collision course with AI.
By the way, when it comes to the UK, you left recently, right? So what's the main reason?
Just being like candid, transparent. I think it's like taxation reasons and also just like the future economic outlook and environment. And also like I think it's good to just increase your service area to the world and life and stuff. But I think they've just made it difficult. It's just prohibitive to be an entrepreneur in the UK. Just make it too difficult. And yeah, it's just too expensive to live there, actually, man, to be honest with you.
So how has you found Dubai in the first month here?
Dubai's been cool. People are super friendly. I'm blown away by... There's just an air of safety, which is interesting.
Yeah.
The heat is one thing. But yeah, so far so good, dude. Yeah, so far so good. It's going to be interesting, yeah.
Right now is like the time to leave Dubai. Like as the heat is getting like 35,
the
40.
Heat's popping up a little bit. Yeah.
During winter, when it's like 25 max, 20 to 25, it's perfect. It's like for winter, I would highly recommend you to anyone watching just to spend like a month, 2 months in Dubai. It's amazing, right? Yeah. Like for me, it's like either skiing, in the deep mountains with like meters of snow, or like Dubai. The middle ground where it's like 2 degrees, not snow, it's kind of cloudy, shitty weather. Why?
That's like the tough bit. Yeah, that's the tough bit. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so other than that, like, what are your impressions?
What else do I think?
Because for me, it's like there's like a think bigger effect. Because like you see so much wealth, you see so many people doing well. I have a friend who's like 20 making 5 million a year. It's like, how do you do that at 20 years old?
That's incredible.
And it's like this is like not available, for, at least for me when I come from, person there at like 20 or like 21, whatever.
Wow.
But that's like limiting, right? You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You don't want to be the richest person in your area. When you move to a place like Dubai, you just see like different levels. And it makes you think like these people, they're not smarter than me, right? They're no different than me, but why are they making 10 times more money? We're making like 20,000 money. Why? And again, it's not just about money. It's like pushing harder. There is like this, I don't know, like for me, like having Burj Khalifa view and just looking at it, someone had to thought like, we're going to build the world's tallest building. And you think about that, like the ambition to do that, right? So someone had to thought that and it's like, let's make it happen. This is like the thing in Dubai. You have to think bigger. It makes you to like expand your horizons.
You want to surround yourself with people that are crushing it, to get those little snippets, those little bits of inspirational data, dude. Yeah, I agree. I think that's it. You want a good entrepreneurial economy. Yeah, I completely agree. I think Dubai is epic for that stuff.
One thing that I don't respect is like a lot of entrepreneurs, they just want to make money for themselves. Right? They want to be on the beach, family, whatever. But once you take care of your family and friends, right? What's next? To me, the answer is like the place where you came from, your region, your community, your city, your country. And I don't know, like I hate the fact that people say, oh, it's just going to be like make 100 million or whatever. And then like their country is going to shit. So I think like us, we are like the perfect demographic to solve this. Because what are entrepreneurs? They're problem solvers, right?
Yeah.
So when you remove all the problem solvers from a country with a lot of problems, it goes to shit. So I think like the real answer is like for people like you and me, we should like get our life in order, right? Become successful, influential, whatever. But then we should try to save the continent we came from. Because I don't like the future. Like I don't want my kids to live in a world where there is no Europe.
Well, I mean, the effects of a brain drain, which we've seen in other countries, they take, like, you won't notice the impact. It's like when Steve Jobs left Apple, for example, there was like, I mean, I've heard it described as a decay factor because he had like artistic flair and choice, but you didn't notice those ripple effects in the products for several years. I actually think it's also the same case with like countries that, you think about how slow changes are in a business, right? You get a bad CEO, like it's going to take a certain number of years before you start seeing the results of that. Yeah. And with UK, we're seeing the data of people saying, hey, I don't love this as much. We've got riots in certain locations. I'm not saying it's like, like 28 days later level, but like, it's like, but you will only really see the effects on the country after like 5 to 10 years. I mean, you'll start to see the effects, but they will really present themselves after enough time's passed. And we don't really know how bad that's going to get yet either.
Yeah, I think about this like maybe Europe needs like one country to fall. It sounds like bad, but what if for the other countries to like wake up, one of them needs to go into a really bad place? What do you think about that? Because like then you have a clear example, like here's what happens when the bad decision making goes unchecked. Other countries, let's not do that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, it just gets to the point where, I mean, like, yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess like UK, we have election cycles every 5 years. What do I think will that lead to significant change? No, I mean, like, I just look at two things. I look at what direction is it heading in and what is the velocity of that change. And where do I think that'll be in 10 years' time? I think that I don't know enough about the other economies in Europe to know like if that's going to drive like a significant change or not. I think living standards, I hope they get better. I believe they'll get better with AI and how that affects companies, and we'll all realize that benefit. So I think that could be a good counterbalance to what's happening. But everything else is not like heading in the right direction, dude, I think.
Okay, let's end on a nice AI topic. Recently I watched the Naval podcast, and he said that he thinks ASI, artificial superintelligence, is a complete fantasy. And he said he thinks AGI is still like decades away. What do you think about that? And also, what do you think about the implications if he's right?
Oh, well, what would you define as artificial superintelligence?
Well, that's like something that's like far beyond human capability that we can't even comprehend what it does, and it can just like solve mathematical theorems instantly, invent new things.
Yeah, because benchmark one is as intelligent generally as average human. Then it's like as intelligent.
Yeah, so let's talk about AGI. Let's talk about something that can do like things as good as human or better. Not ASI. Let's talk about AGI, because he said he thinks AGI is nowhere near. He said he thinks it's decades away. But if you look at the AI YouTube space, influencer space, it's like, oh, AGI is coming tomorrow. It's coming in 6 hours.
Yeah, it's true. It's very, very true. It's very, very true. Well, let's reduce into what we know for sure. What we know for sure is that the AI performance and impact is increasing. It's not enough time has elapsed for us to know whether that is on an exponential curve or just a kind of a straight linear curve. But what I know for sure, even if it is a linear curve, if we continue at the rate of progress we've had, in a matter of years, it would be unfathomable how powerful that would be. So I think it's like whether it hits these fictitious benchmarks, which I think we change anyway the second it hits, is actually irrelevant. It's like how fast is it changing, how fast is it getting better, and how good is it? I think both those things are very, very quick and very, very good. So the impacts are only going to get bigger, which is why I think the ability to wield and understand this technology is super important, dude. And I'm excited by it. Like, it's my belief that we will solve aging before we're 50. I genuinely believe that. I'm 33 now, and by the time I'm 50, I think we will have cracked it. And it's like the rate of these medical advancements in every area you can imagine, like bringing back die wards, whatever it is just getting better. I'm really excited for that point where the rate of progress just continues to increase. I guess it'd be like nothing at all and then all at once. How about you, Matt? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think we'll probably solve aging too, but I don't know if it's going to be like, I don't know when it's going to be, you know? Could be 10 years, could be 20, could be 30, could be 40. I think there are bigger problems in the world in that meantime that are guaranteed to come up. But
Definitely,
when it comes to AGI, I think the biggest issue is not like the scaling. I agree the models are getting better super fast. The biggest issue is like the architectural one, right? Like if you look at there is a good thought experiment. If you gave a human just like 1% of 1% of the knowledge that any modern LLM has, that human would be able to come up with so many new inventions, conclusions, connections between fields that LLMs don't have. There's not even like one inventions from LLMs currently. One new invention. Biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, nothing, right? So it's not, they don't have true creativity. All the poems you tell them to write are kind of shitty, right? Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I think it needs to be a different architecture, not just LLMs, until it's real AGI. I think it's going to be like super intelligent in some ways, right? Like coding, math, all of those benchmarks, it's already super intelligent. But if you talk about like an average human, all the things like how much agency an average person has, can it solve a unique problem, stuff like that? I think in that case, AGI is not here.
But it's like, we don't really understand how our own okay, AI is obviously not conscious right now, but we don't understand how our own consciousness works or how we make decisions ourselves. And we, to some extent, really understand what's happening with these LLMs anyway. So at what point, I mean, it's like, what's the definition? And at what point is it so good that it's spookily accurate to the point where you could actually, I mean, there's a few, I saw an interesting conversation recently, and it outlined a few problems we have to solve. One is like the hallucination problem, obviously, so it doesn't hallucinate. You are right about originality with AI. It's like its ability, it can get better at doing the things we already use it for. But at what point is it so good that you could just defer all responsibility and it would make decisions like a human being? That's tough to say. I would just chalk, if you had to bucket all its improvements up, it is generally getting better. I would like to think that would happen in a certain period of time, but I mean, like, dude, your guess is as good as mine. It's wild. I think we're on a collision course for it getting to the point where, like, it's going to be completely game changing in many areas. So I don't think we're there now, but hopefully in a couple of years it'll be pretty freaking world changing.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we can do this podcast in a year and we'll see.
AI dive in there, yeah. Well, if I had to give it, I'm going to give a crazy prediction. My prediction would be I think that like everything else, it will get neater and cooler. There'll be cool things. I think lots of things will be overhyped to not turn out to be anything. But I think there will be an inflection point where we're like, holy crap, that's insane. And I think it'll probably be our view of where the future is going is led by our past experiences, which is why if you ask people in the 50s, where do you think we'll be in the year 2000? They all said flying cars. And they said flying cars because they just had the invention of like cars and stuff, right? So our predictions of where AI will go is based on what's happened recently. But like even image gen, for example, was crazy. We didn't expect it to, at least I didn't expect it to really solve images the way that it did with text it is right now. So it could just be in ways that we don't possibly understand. But I love kind of like opining on it. I think futurology is really interesting.
Yeah. So I think we can wrap up here because we ran out of time. But yeah,
beautiful.
Let's see where it goes, and let's do another episode in 6 months, 12 months.
So let's do it.
Appreciate it, Jack.
Thank you, man. Great conversation.